We were very thrilled to integrate in that beautiful datograph movement a tourbillon. It is quite a challenge because many people see the datograph movement side as one of the most beautiful, and we didn't want to disturb this. And that was actually the key point. We said, okay, let's try this. It was hard because you have to respect the proportions of the chronograph mechanism on one side, leave it as much as it is, and to integrate a nice tourbillon. And the balance wheel is quite big in the regular datograph. So we knew, okay, it had to be a big tourbillon cage, which is I'm very happy with it. Let's say it like this. I'm very happy with the design of the movement. The energy household in a movement, because you have a limited power. You have one main barrel, and that barrel has to supply its energy, of course, to the escapement, to the watch, to make a certain accuracy. Secondly, in this watch, it has to power the chronograph and the perpetual calendar, of course. The perpetual calendar, when it's switching instantaneously, is the last, let's say 6 hours before the switching of midnight. A little spring is loaded up, charged with power, and then released at midnight, which also requires energy. And of course, when we develop such a movement, you should be able to use the chronograph also around midnight, when all the maximum energy is required. And that is a challenge for us in the development, because accuracy, timekeeping is number one, of course, also for complications. The main challenges are not only for the developer, the movement designer, to be able to find a solution and to find space to put in all these indications in a reasonable size. The next step is for the watchmaker, who has to assemble the already complicated mechanisms like a perpetual calendar or like a datograph or like a tourbillon, all together in one watch. Of course, we used the datograph up and down as the basic movement for this timepiece. And of course it has all the features of the datograph up and down. So it has the exactly jumping minute counters, has a flyback system, and it's the same beauty. It is not just putting a tourbillon in the datograph movement. And we had to adapt it a little bit to find a place to this, for this huge tourbillon. We had to adjust the chronograph mechanism for that. And we developed a completely new perpetual calendar module, which is actually now instantaneously jumping at midnight. And since the datograph up-down has a power reserve indication, we also had to integrate the up and down function on the dial side. Yeah, let me show you how the chronograph works. So first, start-stop push button at the 2 o'clock position, and you start your measurement. If you start over 1 minute, you see the exactly jumping minute counter jumping exactly after 1 minute. After you measure, you stop the chronograph. Then you use the 4 o'clock button, the reset button, to reset everything at 0. Datograph, although, has not only the exactly jumping minute counter, but also the flyback function. You can reset and restart at the same time by using the 4 o'clock push button, like you see here. I can show you how the leverage works on the back side. It's very nice to see actually that as soon as you push the start-stop button, you see the column wheel moving and the whole leverage action in work. Even more fascinating is actually what I'm going to show you now, that is the flyback function. Start, and then in one hit, stop, reset, and start again. It's quite fascinating to see these beautiful mechanisms and levers working. The perpetual calendar is, in this multi-complication, quite a challenge on the design level, because you have to create a certain readability. Let us go through the indications on the dial. The outside date, the weekday indication, the month indication, the leap year, the moon phase, the day and night indication, and, not to forget, the power reserve indication. And all these indications in this perpetual calendar, they jump instantaneously around midnight. It's always a bit of a, wow, so many indications in perpetual. It sounds very delicate. In fact, A.Lange Söhne, we have that in all our perpetual calendars. We have one main pusher, we call that. And that is situated on the 10 o'clock position. By pushing that, you switch the whole calendar, so all the indications of the calendar, ahead by 1 day. For security reasons, for de-switching, avoiding, we have made that interlocking system, which is actually not quite new. We had it in the first DATOGRAPH Perpetual. And that pusher only works as soon as you pull the crown in the first position for the hand setting. We had that because the watch is delivered by a folding buckle, which means clients lay the watch on the side, and there could be a risk of switching of the calendar, not wanted of course. We even have the possibility to set different indications separately. And we have push pieces for the weekday indication and the moon phase indication. And on the other side, the integrated push piece for the month and the leap year. Now, since we use the DATOGRAPH up and down basic movement, but in the DATOGRAPH up down, the power reserve is situated at the 6 o'clock position. At the DATOGRAPH Perpetual Calendar, with the tourbillon of course, there is the moon phase indication on that position. So we had to find a solution. The solution is made in the dial ring. This is the ring where the tachymeter scala is printed on, and it finds itself between the 9 o'clock and the 10 o'clock position. Here you have underneath the dial a segmentation which is slightly rotating. And actually only one stripe is visual, and when the watch is fully wound, the stripe is silver. And as time goes by, the silver is changed by a red segmentation. So you'll be warned accurately when you have to rewind your watch again. The tourbillon is not visual on the dial side because there's already so much information. You have the perpetual calendar, you have a chronograph. So we said we keep that a secret for the owner. That is a very precious good for the owner of the watch. We had to create a new one. Yeah, because this is the first tourbillon with a balance wheel with that size. And the size of the balance wheel dictates the size of the tourbillon cage in most of the times. And of course, as soon as at A.Lange Söhne a tourbillon watch is made with a second hand, there is a stop tourbillon.